This next one is a somewhat interesting movie, somewhat well known, and I believe the pronunciation is Poughkeepsie, the Poughkeepsie Tapes, from 2007. Sort of like a found footage, made up documentary type thing about a serial killer killing around the New York area. I mean, pretty much this, serial killer killing people, and they sort of interview a bunch of like FBI specialists, the individual who watched a bunch of tapes that were found, documenting the crimes, people who deal with the body, medical specialists, that type of stuff, people who interact with the victims, the police officers. It's made you feel like a documentary type thing, like that you might see on some crime station. And I actually think they do a pretty good job with that. My main problem with this movie is that I don't think it's a particularly memorable movie. I mean, I think it's when you're watching it, I think you can have an okay time, but like a week later, I have a hard time believing that most people are going to remember that much about this one. And this one had a bit of a controversial release history, from my understanding. It was made in 2006, 2007. It wasn't really released until I think it was 2014, something like that. And that was like on a video on demand type thing. And if I'm reading the correct information, it was actually released on like DVD or Blu-ray until like 2017. So it took like 10 years for this to fully come out. So it's interesting, and it often makes like, quote unquote, the most controversial horror movies. I don't really see it. There's like few creepy scenes, but there's nothing in here that really blew me away.
Yeah, I thought there are a few tense moments in the movie, a couple of standout scenes, at least stand out amongst the rest of the movie. But I mean, found footage, not those type of movies. They don't usually do a whole lot for me. Occasionally, I'll come across one that's pretty decent, but yeah, I mean, this one was kind of mediocre for me. I thought the found footage aspect of it's okay. I found that some of the interviews with people, especially like the FBI's and cops and sometimes even the medical people that they supposedly interview in this movie, some of them just felt like I was watching actors in a movie. Like it didn't feel like a real documentary for some of those interviews. Now I don't know if that was just the way they filmed it or if it's the actors themselves, but I don't know. I had a hard time believing some of these people were real people. I was quite aware that I was watching a movie. And I think the whole point of found footage is to make it feel like you're not watching a movie. So the found footage scenes where the killer in it, those scenes, sure, they feel a little more real, but I just thought it didn't have enough moments throughout where I'd care to go back and watch it again. It was okay, but yeah, I can't see myself wanting to go back to this one.
Yeah, one thing I did like about this is this sort of a subplot, which I won't get too much into, but sort of a subplot that revolves around 9/11, which I thought was sort of an interesting addition. I know that some viewers found it somewhat tasteless to, invoke that, but I thought it was really interesting how they sort of tied it into this, make-believe story, and it's certainly believable too. So I don't know, I sort of enjoyed how they did it, really shy away from that type of thing, because some modern movies do. So at least this one, in that aspect, felt like, hey, that could actually happen. And I'm sure to some extent things like that did happen.
Not that this is a huge spoiler, but I just thought it was kind of ironic that the woman that they find or rescue or whatever, it was kind of ironic putting her on camera later on. She spends her horrific ideal in front of a camera. So
yeah, see that scene. No, I know that the I know the performance might not necessarily be amazing, but that scene sort of got to me. She's tortured for something. Is it like 10 years, something like that, for a really long time. Then they finally found her, and she's all messed up, as you can imagine. Obviously, there's not necessarily a happy ending to that. So I mean, I do find it ironic. I just felt so bad for like hey, I don't know what you want me to say, because she's so conditioned to being told, hey, this is what you have to say. Just I found it somewhat, despite the performance being somewhat shaky, I found it somewhat heartbreaking.
Probably the most standout scene for me was the one where he picks up this one lady. You know, she thinks he's a cop, and he's actually kind of saying throughout, like, you know, watch out for this killer guy that's out. And then eventually he's almost like, psych, I am the killer.
Hey, why do you call me officer? Like, wait, what?
And now, you know, I'm gonna make a deal. You let me rape you, and I won't kill you. And you know that's not gonna happen.
Hey, let's be honest. You probably want to be alive for what I'm going to do with you. So.
But yeah, I think the moment where she's like, okay, I'll let you rape me, that was kind of pretty messed up. So yeah, so that scene stood out to me.
Yeah, I think there were like maybe 3 scenes that I made the costume the guy wore in some of his tapes was a bit goofy. Sort of like a plague mask type French aristocracy type thing, but I can see if like he's like so messed up that he might think it's okay.
Yeah.
It just looked a bit goofy at times, but that's sad. I can imagine there's a lot of things that these types of people would do that might seem goofy from an outside perspective, but you know, obviously if you're the victim, you're just going to be terrified even more. I also like the tension during the gross cut scene. Now, I guess I should mention that I have seen this one before. It's been like 3-4 years. But the one scene I remembered was the scene with the Girl Scouts, you know. You obviously hope nothing happens to them. But then again, they're so stupid enough to go into this guy's house. So.
Yeah, kind of surprised how that turned out. I was expecting something else to happen.
Which is probably a good thing because it can sort of get rid of your expectations, at least in a small way. Yeah, my issue with this movie, and I don't dislike found footage as much as Chucky might, or find this necessarily as mediocre. My issue with this one is that there's not that many memorable scenes. There's like this one toward the end. Then there's a sort of a creepy scene where he's crawling around for some reason, which has sort of a creepy vibe to it. But there wasn't that much here that really it's going to stick with me in the years to come. I thought it was decently made. I actually was okay with most of the interviews. I could believe that hey, some of these people could be FBI. So I did have a big issue with that. But I just don't think it's a particularly memorable movie, and it's okay for like a single watch. But I can't imagine watching this one multiple times. I feel like it would lose its value after first time seeing it. So I'll probably just give this one an average rating, 7 out of 10. And then just forget it the next week.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same thought pattern there, that it was okay to watch as a once-off. I mean, I'm certainly, I'm not regretting having watched it, but at the same time, I can't see myself wanting to go back and watch it again. I think I'm just going to give it a 5. Yeah, it's got a few tense moments, and it's okay in certain parts, but some of the interviews just didn't feel real enough for me, to the point where I wasn't convinced that this is like an actual documentary. I mean, deep down we all know it's not, but I didn't even get to that point where they could kind of suspend my disbelief in that way. So, yeah, it was a mediocre movie for me, I thought.
So basically, I'm 0 for 2 on my choices tonight, so I apologize.
I had planned on seeing this movie at some point, because I actually do hear quite a few people talk about it. Some people actually say it's really good, and I mean, One Dark Night was already on my radar before you even mentioned it, so yeah, it's just neither of those two movies did anything special for me.
Yeah, we can see how next week goes.
So with that being said, they can rename this movie the Poughkeepsie Tapes for all I care.
It's a beautiful renaming.